Hello, and welcome to a crafting tutorials featuring special guest Lord Ken of Shine. Lord Ken, can you tell me what we'll be making today?
First of all, I want to say it's an honor to be on the show. First time on any show, long time viewer. We're going to make a sword today, from the bottom up.
Excellent.
So like any tutorial with Mazius, we're going to go ahead and put in the description what all you'll need. So I'm not going to go over what everything is, I'm just going to start pulling stuff. So you're going to need your omnidirectional foam. It's nice when it's in a octagon like that. I want to make sure it wasn't a hex. And you're going to want to go ahead and start transferring holes, right? Caps, if you will. We're going to need 2 out of blue foam. I recommend using your Sharpie marker to go ahead and trace it out. If you have a weirdly shaped, circle or something, I don't know what you're making your sword out of. It's important to line up the odd sizes. You want this all to line up as good as you can.
I can cut this out as you're doing the next thing.
Sure. Hand that off to you. Feel free to use any knife, that's just the one I happen to bring. This couch foam, I will mention, is optional.
Yeah, I'm going to go get one of my razor knives.
Yeah, that thing's kind of dull. So this is optional. This will be for the quote stab tip, as it were. I like to put on my swords because I like to be nice, but you don't really have to do this. This one might cut easier with scissors even. So the first part that we're going to start doing here is the pommel, right? Usually you would take some adhesive-backed craft foam, play foam, comes in a pack like this, foam sheets. You can get the kind that isn't adhesive-backed, but I don't recommend it because this is just a lot easier, in my opinion, and it's like not very much more at all. So I went ahead and pre-cut these into strips. You can do all the same size strip or not, doesn't really matter. I like to kind of step down. You can see I got smaller sizes going on. I like to step down to kind of make a bit of an inward taper there. So the pommel, if I can get one of these off. Boom. So you want to try and keep a flat edge as you can on this foam, just so that when you wrap it around here, it will all wrap nicely. And if you start getting off, you don't want that, so correct yourself. And you want a nice flat edge across there when we're done. So I'm going to roll these. Mazius has already cut those. And if you will recall the recipe, the rule book as it were, we have to have a 2-inch diameter pommel. So we got a bit of foam rolling to do. See, if you weren't using adhesive back here, you would have to put a piece of tape on there and tape it to the core first, and then torque wrap it every new piece you have, and they're just aren't going to hold as good as well.
That's more than 2 inches.
Sweet. Alright. Now, one last time, we're going to transfer probably the last hole we'll need. Where'd my marker go? There we go. And unlike the tip, for this side, really just need one. This one, like I said earlier, this one's going to be all along because you're just wrapping tape around the circle there. Foam tape. So that's start our pommel. Now I just do this to cover up where this overlaps.
Oh, nice.
I'm not gonna. You don't have to include this in the video.
Okay. Oh, no, I'll include it.
Okay. I cut out this flirby little, little strip, decorative strip. I'm just gonna kind of put it on Mazius's sword here to cover up a little bit of the seams, make them a little less noticeable, and it'll just make his pommel look kind of interesting too. So now this is how you attach the cap, so to speak. So I listed out 2 different types of packing tape. This type, I use my knife so I don't mess up your razor blade. This is what I use this thing for. I called out 2 different types of packing tape, a cheaper one, and then this easy strand or crystal clear, you know, whatever. The cheaper stuff is thinner, so it weighs less. It's gonna break more, but your sword will weigh less. I use this for one specific thing, and we'll get into that later. So to start, I like to cut a strand that's, you know, got about the same length on each side of our cap. Hook hole there. You don't have to really worry about a nice clean edge because it's all going to get taped up in the end. I'm going to stick this thing on there like so, and whatever. You can see it. I mean, I don't know. That'd be kind of
like this.
Yeah, why not? I'm gonna put that back on there. So you're gonna put your tape on here like so, about the middle, and line it up nice. Trying to tell where's where. Won't really matter for this. Yeah, it was a little oblong. Oh. And you know, just kind of press it down on the side there. Now it's all in place. We'll do, oh yeah, I'd probably put that up.
Well,
I'm going to need it.
You're going to use it again.
I'm going to need it.
I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4 on
Iron skin. I'm a monk, so. So we're going to continue with securing this onto here. And it's all adhesive wrapped to the core, to itself, but just for a little added assurance, I like to start a spiral strand. Here, I'm going to hold this from me because I need to turn it. To get a whole spiral strand, to kind of get that extra assurance and hold it back to the core. If you're worried about a really pretty design in here, you want to be careful not to use too much doing this, because very easy to lose any detail you put into your pommel. Probably gonna be difficult for him to do. And there we go. We have something like that. There's our pommel. So I'm going to start the handle. Handles are weird because they're really up to everyone's personal preference. I just wrap duct tape around in a circle, and you want it to go as much of a clean circle as you can. And you're going to build that up till it's nice and thick, and whoever's holding the sword is comfortable holding it. You know, some people like it to be pretty much just the core. I personally can't stand that. It hurts my hand. I have to have something thick, but that's how I learned how to do it. So if you if you're making a sword for yourself and you know how thick you want it at this point, I would recommend still holding off. I just like to do this to give myself a kind of a rough idea. So now the most important part of our sword, the blade. But before I get to the blade, a little safety precaution to keep our blade alive longer. So we're back to our craft foam here. I'm going to cut a pretty small strip. Dang. See, that was just the trace line, so I know where I wanted to cut. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. So basically, we're wanting to fill out the empty space between the tip of our core or the tip of our blade and the core itself. So I probably won't even need this much, but I'm gonna wrap it super tight around here, and this also kind of covers up the sharp edges that I actually probably might not even need that. This is going to cover up the sharp edges of the graphite, which will eventually eat your sword away. If you're having a hard time pressing this through here with it on here, you can put the actual blade on, move it down, and then put your thing on. But I don't think we're going to need that. Yeah, we are going to need that. That's okay. So as you can see, my thing got caught off in there, and well, we're not getting that back. So the other alternative is you can push the blade past where it ends. Cut yourself another strip. Thank you. We'll cut this piece this time. Same thing, same process. Capping it around there so it can't move around and cut. And, you know, trying to fill out that gap. Very delicate procedure. As you can see, we're pretty caught up, and we aren't rattling much anymore, if at all. So that's a good sign. Next we're going to try and, can you hold this again for me? We're going to try and put our foam on here. So this is a pretty straight cut, what do you call these things? Octagon. And there we go. And it'll be pretty easy to attach the blade. Something like that, and then when we add our Calstrom, we're here. So the reason why I'm laying all this out is because it's important to note that the max length of your blade can be 36 inches, and 2/3 of it or less have to be the, or 2/3, or at least 2/3 of it have to be the blade, right? So, what are we reading out there, Mazes?
We are at 35 and a half.
35 and a half, and the blade is 25 and a half, so we're good.
Yep.
So yeah, you want to make sure before you start taping or any of that, you want to go ahead and do that, because you don't want to get all the way through your blade and be like, oh wow, this is nothing, because it's not legal. So, important note there. Duct tape, useful again for up here, right? I like to put just a small little square like this in between each layer of our tip here. That kind of gives you like a little, what is that here again? That gives us like a little extra, you know, a little extra blow through protection from when our tip decides to come out of there. I mean, no sword is made to last forever. If you go into making a sword thinking it's going to last forever, that's you're really just setting yourself up for disappointment. A good sword is one that can be taken apart and fixed easily, because they're going to break. You're swinging at somebody. It's going to break quickly. So, same capping process as before. We're going to use the cheaper tape. Boom, about half. Use my blade. It probably really doesn't matter, but I put the duct tape down. Personal preference, I suppose. And another thing I should note, another little cautionary note, is when you're building your blade up at the top, it's very easy to make it really braided. You really want to be cautious of all the tape that you're throwing on it. Or rather, rather you want to be cautious of the how little tape you're putting on it, really. That wasn't good. So now, our second strand. The first time I put it on this way, this time we're going to secure it this way. So that way our little, our tip tower, as it were, at the top of our blade isn't going to fall apart so bad. So boom, that's more or less the tip. We're not going to leave it like that because it's not very secure, but we're going to do the most important part of the blade. So now we're going to pay attention to our other tape, the thicker, the clear tape. This is probably one of the harder parts on the sword. There's another hard part coming up, but this is definitely, I guess, one of the most tiring for your hands, the torque wrap, as it were. I'm going to save this here. To save yourself a little bit, you can take scissors, or I recommend like a paint stripping blade, and you can kind of trim off the edges of these. This thing isn't even going to do it. Take this out of here. And you can kind of like cut a little bevel into where your sword is going to attach to your core. This will help you just a little bit trying to get that torque started and really get it down in size. And you don't have to worry about how pretty this looks because it's going to be completely covered with tape. So. As you can see, we got the nice little bevel there, and we're going to torque wrap. So I would recommend starting up here somewhere. We only have a couple inches to play with on our blade length, and I should note that when it's not 2 inches in diameter, that doesn't count as strike legal surface. So if you start your torque up here and it comes down, most of this isn't going to be strike legal, and it's not good for a lot of reasons. So I'm going to start here, and it's kind of hard to show. I'm trying to get a little closer. You kind of want to pull it and then apply force with this part of your hand here.
Do you want me to stabilize the core or something?
No, it's easier for me if I hold it and twist it with this hand and kind of, it's a two-hand process. Also, kind of angle your tape down just a little bit. Right? Kind of angle your tape down just a little bit so that your spiral is working in that direction. Because ultimately you want to secure it to right here. You want to go kind of deep. So, and you should hear, you might hear, I don't know, this frame tape's weird. You probably hear like some popping and stuff like that. One way you'll know that your sword or a sword was correctly torqued is after you cut it, it will like visibly pop or audibly pop and explode out kind of. So I'm kind of twisting it, anchoring my thumb here and kind of dragging it along, smashing the tape into this thing with my, my thumb here. So. And then you want to go ahead and anchor it pretty deep in there so that your thing doesn't twist around and break. And that's torque wrap. So we're using, minimal inward bevel there. So now, the second hardest part of the blade. This is the part of the blade that I think is equivalent to folding it 1,000 times. Folding the Japanese steel 1,000 times. And this is putting the tape on the blade, and moreover, not getting the veins in the blade. I'm sure you've felt the sword before, and it felt like a muscly, veiny arm, or like a iguana's torso or something. Mazius's arm right here. And some people that won't bother you at all. Me, it drives me crazy. So I try my utmost to not have veins in my sword. And I'm going to show you how I do that. Wow, how I attempt to do that. So, you need long strips. If your strip breaks, it's useless. I press it down in the middle on this end, and I just kind of lay it flat let this hang over, right? I'm gonna start at the middle, move my hands out. That pretty much takes care of every vein. The hexagon blades are nice. I mean, honestly, the circular blades are easy too. They're nice because everything is nice and uniform. You know what side to start on. So boom, that's one face of it, no veins. We're gonna bring our finger on here, and you don't have to press down really hard when you come up here. That's just gonna give you a really hard tip. No one's gonna want you to get hit with your sword. It might even be called illegal because it's unsafe. So if you're gonna have veins also in your sword, it's gonna be at the top. Should mention that. Dang it. Oh. See, if you make one vein in the sword, you have to throw the whole thing away at this point. It's just completely worthless. No, not really.
That's staying in.
That's fine with me. That's totally fine with me. I often tell people that. So there we have our first two sides, right? You want to try and you really want to try and break it down so that it's 3 pieces of tape. You know, you should be able to cover your whole blade with that. It may be a little dicey, and if you end up with long strips that aren't covered, I mean, your sword's not gonna break instantly. It might break a little quicker, but it really won't affect you much in the grand scheme of things. Let me see what I can. Yeah, this is the biggest downfall of the cheap tape, is getting a new freaking piece off. But it's thinner, it's lighter. So, piece 2. Speaking of completely pointless countermeasures, when I was learning how to make swords, someone told me that once you build the sword and put the tape on it, you should hold it over the oven while it's on to melt the glue to the foam.
Should you also put walnuts in it?
I hear you should put walnuts in your sword too. If you super glue a walnut to the end of it, you get that extra weight when you swing it. It really just, the momentum transfers through. It's brilliant, really. I picked that one up from Asius. He makes all of his swords that way. But yeah, I don't know if either of those things really help you at all, but you know, why not? Oh, there's a vein. I got greedy. So, at this point, our sword's pretty good. Pretty pristine, minimal veins, not bad. If you're playing along at home and you want to add the stab tip on, this is a good time to do it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it since we've already accounted for it in our length. We're going to do the same thing with this tip as we did with the other ones, where we're going to, you know, attach it kind of halfway, like so. And this especially, this thing is kind of just up here, and you're just placing it on there. You don't, when you tape it down, you don't want to pull the foam at all. You just want it to like sit atop this thing and be nice and snug. It's lightweight. It moves around. It's not going to tear off. Well, it will eventually. Anything will. It's not going to tear off that quickly. Put it that way. And to do that, I find it's easier to go ahead and cut your piece of tape all at once. And then place it over. That way you have less of a tendency to contort the foam. Squeeze it all in there. That's stab tip. Last thing. I like to put this on here just so that all of our pieces that are stranding over, they're going to kind of be held together now. if you didn't hear one of the tape. I put that piece around because it will hold all of our strands in there. You know, like I said, it's very easy to get a lot of tape up there. So now we're going to go ahead and attach our cover. We're using nylon hosiery. You can definitely be more delicate, or you can definitely be less. This is what we're using now, so get over it. I don't sew things. Mazzius doesn't sew things. So here we are not sewing things. Let's see. You want it to fit kind of tight, but not like so tight that anything that scratches it will tear it. Something like this maybe. I need to get them scissors again because it's too much excess. You want some excess, some keyword. My core, my handle rather, starts like here, so this is like too much excess. But you want some so that you can anchor the whole thing to it. Thanks. Teamwork.
Indeed.
See, this is both of our Paul's entry. He just helped. So. Okay. Not bad. It's a sword. Man, that stab tip didn't come out like I wanted it to, but oh well. Sorry, Mazzius.
It's okay.
Anyway, now we're gonna finish our sword. So back to the duct tape. I'd go ahead and start up here. Kind of right where the two meet. You can twist it, but if you twist it, it has better chance to come loose. So I can just pull it straight over and just kind of start taping. Actually. There we go. All right, you can go. Thank you. And now we're taping for a while. Now this nylon doesn't stay put. No, okay, we're good. That's just not gonna use. I do roll duct tape. It's no big deal. Come and use it later.
Weighs more than the rest of the sword.
Well, and you kind of want a lot of your weight to be in the pommel of the sword. I find that it gives me a little bit of an advantage when I'm trying to pull it back to guard and stuff like that, and there's more weight in the bottom of it. That's just kind of a personal preference of mine. How thick do you want this to be? Just
You can just leave it off there because I'm going to put a layer of like baseball bat grip tape over it.
oh, okay, let me just even out this little part there. So you would keep putting tape around it until it was thick enough for whoever it was made for. And then you would cover it with something like some cloth tape or baseball grip or tennis grip or whatever you're going to use. And there you have it. That's how you make a sword from the ground up. There you go.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.